به این ویدیو خوش آمدین. امیدوار هستم جور صحتمند باشین و یک روز خوب تیر کرده باشین. آمدیم بالای از این ویدیو ریاکشن بریم. البته ما ایره مکمل هم ندیدیم، با شما البته ایره ببینم. سناریو ای رقم است. بگذارین که من کم شه ببینم. یادم رفته یک چند روز پیش یادم آمد. 3 تا از قوی ترین قبیلای که در زمان بوده که یکی قبیله امی چنگیزخان است. همیشه مشناسم دگاهشم، البته مشناسم. خب این مشهورتر از اوست که یا عرصه از یا یک جای میخواین بالای یک پایگاه پیشرفته حمله کنن. ببینیم که کی پیروز میشه، یک پایگاه یا نه، یا ارتش یا ام پایگاهی که سلاح مجهز پیشرفته را داره. بریم ویدیو را شروع کنیم.
Roman legion versus Alexander versus Genghis Khan. Who could take a modern military base? This channel has spent a long time dropping modern weapons into ancient battlefields. This time, the scenario is reversed. 3 of history's greatest armies, the Roman Empire, Alexander the Great, and the Mongols under Genghis Khan, each get one attempt at attacking a modern US forward operating base. Base, same garrison, same defenses, 10,000 soldiers per army. The base resets between each wave. The base is modeled on FOB Salerno, a U.S. forward operating base in Khost Province, Afghanistan, roughly 25 kilometers from the Pakistan border. The soldiers stationed there nicknamed it Rocket City because of how often it came under attack. For this scenario, the base is stripped down to its essentials. A mid-sized outpost with a garrison of 200, surrounded by flat, open desert in every direction. The perimeter is ringed with HESCO barriers, giant dirt-filled steel mesh boxes stacked into walls capable of stopping anything short of a cruise missile. Behind the HESCOs, 3 layers of concertina wire, razor coils designed to trap and shred anything that enters them. Guard towers stand at each corner, mounted with M2 Browning .50 caliber machine guns firing at 550 rounds per minute. Effective beyond 1,800 meters. M240 machine guns cover every approach. M22 460mm mortars provide indirect fire. Several armored Humvees with mounted weapons serve as a mobile response element. Every soldier carries an M4 rifle with optics. The base is equipped with night vision, thermal scopes capable of detecting body heat regardless of lighting conditions, floodlights on every tower, trip flares wired across every approach, and ground sensors along the perimeter that detect footsteps at 100 meters. No air support, no drones, no artillery from another base. The FOB and its garrison are the only defense. First attacker, the Roman legion. 10,000 legionaries from the height of the Roman Empire, 1st century AD. Professional soldiers who conquered the Mediterranean, built infrastructure that survives 2,000 years later, and turned military engineering into a discipline. They had taken every fortified position between Britain and Mesopotamia. None of it prepared them for this. The legion forms at dawn, 800 meters from the perimeter. Sentry formations, shields raised, standards visible. The centurions give the order and 10,000 men begin marching in disciplined lines across open desert. The .50 caliber machine guns open fire at 600 meters. A Roman scutum shield is built to stop a javelin or deflect a blade. A .50 caliber round travels at nearly 890 meters per second. It passes through the shield, through the arm holding it, and through the man standing behind him. At this velocity, the scutum provides no meaningful protection. Men fall in rows. The centurions respond the way they are trained. They close ranks, tighten the formation, and push forward. Against machine guns, this is the worst possible response. Dense formations are precisely what automatic weapons are designed to destroy. The testudo is ordered. Shields lock overhead and along the sides. The formation that stopped Parthian arrows and enemy javelins for centuries. The testudo becomes a concentrated target rather than a defense. Mortars begin dropping 60mm rounds into the rear formations, still crossing open ground. Each round carries a kill radius of a
چیزایی که طالب بودک یا سربازهای از یا 10,000 تاست و از وا فکر کنم 200 تاست و که هستن سپورت هوایی ندارن و یا که هستن همی شیلداشان که هست نمیتونه از همی مرمی از این تیر میشه و بریم ادامه ویدیو رو ببینیم.
Approximately 15 meters. Against packed infantry with no cover, the effect is systematic. Roughly 400 legionaries reach the wire. Concertina razor coils are not a wall to scale or a gate to breach. They are a tangle of steel that immobilizes anyone who enters. The M240s finish the work at close range. A Humvee rolls to the eastern perimeter where a cluster of legionaries has piled against the wire. The mounted M2 opens fire. Soldiers along the wall engage with M4s, firing downward into the men caught in the coils. One centurion forces through the wire on momentum alone. He reaches a Hesco barrier and drives his gladius into the steel mesh, only to find himself striking a wall of packed earth taller than he is. He does not survive the next second. 90 minutes. Approximately 6,000 to 7,000 dead. The survivors retreat in disorder, something Roman legions almost never did. Second attacker, Alexander the Great. 10,000 soldiers from Alexander's army at its peak. Macedonian phalanx infantry, companion cavalry, Thessalian light horse, Cretan archers, and Rhodian slingers. A combined arms force commanded by a general who never lost a battle. Alexander does not advance immediately. He sends Prodromoi scouts on a wide arc beyond 1,000 meters, mapping the base layout, observing the towers, counting the weapons, and studying the firing patterns. The base detects them on thermal optics, but individual horsemen at that range are expensive targets. The garrison holds fire. This reconnaissance occupies most of the first day. At nightfall, Alexander commits his force. He does not have night vision equipment, but he has darkness, numbers, and a conclusion drawn from daylight observation. Crossing open ground under direct fire is not survivable. His calculation has one flaw. The FOB's thermal scopes detect body heat regardless of ambient light, whether the sun is up or not. Alexander has no way to know this. He sends archers and slingers forward in dispersed groups. Fire arrows arc toward the guard towers. They cause no structural damage, but they generate light and visual interference. Lead sling bullets strike metal surfaces. The effect is distraction, not destruction. Under this screen, 2,000 companion cavalry ride a
یا امی در شب حمله میکنن از خاطر استراتیژی از یاد شب است و یا که هستن از دور با تیرکمان فایر میکنن که هیچ فایده نداره. او به خاطر از این ساخته شده امی پایگاه که او از امی مرمی و چیزهای بسیار پیشرفته دفاع کنه. این خب بسیار چیزهای ابتدایی است، از این خب یاد دفاع میکنه.
5-kilometer arc and strike the rear perimeter at full speed. Thermal sensors detect them 2 kilometers out. The garrison is now tracking threats from 2 directions simultaneously. Ground sensors along the front perimeter register approaching infantry. Trip flares ignite across the eastern approach, illuminating 200 meters of desert. Floodlights activate from the towers. The darkness advantage disappears within seconds, but so does the garrison's ability to concentrate fire. Cavalry on thermal behind them, infantry on sensors in front, fire arrows overhead, and the floodlights have just revealed 30 small groups of phalanx soldiers approaching the wire from different angles. The FOB's defenses are optimized for a massed assault from one direction. Alexander is applying pressure from every side at once. The machine guns open fire. Men fall. But the dispersed approach means each burst accounts for 1 or 2 casualties, not the rows of 10 that the Roman formation produced. Some reach the wire. A few breach it by throwing cloaks and captured materials over the razor coils. Improvised, costly, and partially effective. They reach the Hesco wall and stop. No ladder designed for it exists in their equipment. No siege engine can be brought forward under this volume of fire. The soldiers who cleared the wire are now standing at the base of a wall they cannot climb, taking fire from above. M4 rifles at point-blank range. One companion cavalryman rides the perimeter and locates a vehicle gate, the one section where the Hesco wall is replaced by a steel barrier on wheels. He drives his horse into it. The horse is killed. A Humvee inside the perimeter responds, and the mounted gunner eliminates the remaining soldiers near the breach point. Alexander withdraws before dawn. Approximately 3,000 casualties, 30% of his force. He has tested every face of the defense, identified the gate as a structural weakness, and is already planning a second attempt with improvised breaching tools. 8 hours. He reached the perimeter wall and located the weak point but never breached it. The technologies defending the FOB were specifically engineered to resist exactly the kind of improvised breaching that ancient armies are capable of. Third attacker, Genghis Khan's Mongol army. 10,000 Mongol riders from the Khwarezmian campaign, 1220 AD. The most effective.
آل نوبت جنگیز خان است با 10,000 سرباز. شما چی فکر میکنید؟ او 2 تا ارتش نتانست پایگاه پیشرفته را شکست بده. من فکر میکنم این یکم متفاوت باشه. شما چی فکر میکنید؟ حتما نظرتان در کامنت نوشته کنید. بریم ببینیم ادامه ویدیو را که آیا جنگیز خان میتونه پیروز شوه یا نه.
Light cavalry force in recorded history, under the command of the most operationally adaptive general of the medieval period. Genghis Khan observes the FOB and does not attack it. Every other army attempted to breach the walls. Genghis Khan identifies the base for what it is, a fixed position in open desert that cannot move, cannot produce food, cannot generate water, and cannot sustain itself indefinitely. His 10,000 riders deploy in a 20-kilometer ring around the base, far beyond effective weapons range. Every road, trail, and approach route falls under Mongol observation. Nothing enters, nothing leaves. The resupply convoys that deliver water, food, and ammunition to this base on a weekly cycle are no longer arriving. The road now belongs to the Mongols. The FOB carries stored supplies for approximately 2 weeks. Water tanks and bladders hold enough for 200 soldiers at full consumption for roughly 14 days, with rationing perhaps 20. During daylight hours, small groups of riders probe the perimeter at 800 to 1,000 meters. Fire arrows are directed at anything potentially flammable. The riders withdraw before the garrison can respond effectively. The objective is not to breach the walls. It is to force the garrison to expend irreplaceable ammunition on targets that are already gone. At night, fires appear on every ridge surrounding the base. Dozens of small fires, visible from every tower. At this distance, they produce no meaningful interference with thermal optics. Their function is psychological. The garrison cannot afford to ignore them. Any fire could be concealing an approach. Sentries watch flickering ridgelines for hours. No assault materializes. The pattern repeats every night. Sleep deprivation becomes a weapon that no defensive technology can neutralize. By day 5, water rationing is in effect. By day 8, .50 caliber ammunition reserves have declined by a third from engagement with fast-moving riders at extreme range. By day 12, the garrison commander is calculating how many days his soldiers can remain operationally effective in desert heat on half-water rations with chronic sleep disruption. Genghis Khan's total losses to long-range fire during 2 weeks of probing amount to approximately 500 riders, a casualty rate that is functionally negligible. 14 days and still in progress. Genghis Khan did not fight the base. He allowed the desert to do it for him. The final ranking. Third, the Romans, 90 minutes. Second, Alexander, 8 hours. First, the Mongols, 14 days and counting. The only army that recognized the
و بالاخره جنگیز خان پیروز شد. باید ببینم که چقدر وقت بود؟
90 minutes. Second, Alexander, 8 hours. First, the Mongols.
اولی امی گروه که بوده در 90 دقیقه شکست خوردن و دیگه در 8 ساعت شکست خورد و بالاخره جنگیز خان پیروز از این جنگ شد با استراتیژی که واره گشنه نگاه کرد، یعنی نان سرشان قطع کرد، هیچ رای غذایی نداشتن و بالاخره پیروز از این جنگ شد. و امیدوار هستم از این ویدیو خوشتان آمده باشه. اگر از این تو ویدیو میخواین حتما در کامنت ها نوشته کنین. من به خاطر از این ویدیو ها رو ترجمه نمی کنم که انگلیسی شما هم خوب شوه، از خودم هم خوب شوه و هر روز همی تو یک ویدیو رو اگر ما ببینیم تا طولانی مدت میتونیم بسیار از انگلیسی را بفهمیم نسبت به آله و خداحافظ شما.